route. It appears as though something has happened in the motorcade route. Something, I repeat, has happened in the motorcade route.
Yeah, I'm a time traveler. I go back to that day many times. The thing is, that morning when I left to go to work in November the 22nd, 1963, that young boy has never come home.
All I could think of was get to the hospital, get the story. I went to the second floor and I saw a priest talking to some of my reporter friends, 3 or 4 reporter friends. So I went over and tried to see what he was saying. His name was Father Oscar Huber. I'll never forget what he said. He said, "I just gave him the last rites." All hell broke loose, and we were told we couldn't stay there. We were told that we had to go upstairs. There's a press room being established upstairs. And then Malcolm Kilduff, an assistant press secretary, got up at the microphone, tears streaking his cheek.
President John F. Kennedy died at approximately 1 o'clock today here in Dallas. He died of a gunshot wound in the brain. Of a bullet right through the head. I have no other details regarding the assassination of the president.
This is Ed Hogan of WFAA Television in Dallas, Texas. We are standing on the grounds of Parkland Hospital, where President Kennedy died, as most of you have already know. What is your name, please?
Mrs. Quincy Adams.
Mrs. Quincy, are you from Dallas, Miss Adams?
Yes.
How does this affect you?
Well, it's just a complete shock, and I think it's just means a doom for our country.
Well, it's a terrible thing, and it's shaken up and shocked everybody.
Well, it has, and I think Dallas will never get over this.
Thank you very much.
I think it's awful that it had to happen here. Anywhere in the United States, I thought we were less barbaric. And the main thing here in America, like we hear so often, so many people hate each other. And I think that's what did it. I hope that nothing like that will ever happen again.
It was shocking, it was terrible, it was emotional, but I couldn't break down. I had to get back up and take care of my job. My job was to protect Mrs. Kennedy as best I could. I was too concerned with how we were going to get him from the hospital to the airplane. We were going to be able to get him back to D.C. There was no time for grief or anything except continue to do the best job you could. And that's what I tried to do. It's a horrible situation. We didn't protect the President of the United States like we were supposed to.
We do not have information here at the hospital because of the chaotic situation and the shock of this whole tragic incident on whether the assassin has been apprehended. We understand that the shot that took the president's life came from a building downtown known as the State Book Depository Building, and the Secret Service men were seen gathered around there.
The search now centers at the area of Elm and Houston near the old Texas School Book Depository Building, and there is a possibility that the would-be assassin is still inside that building.
You saw a man up there? That's where the guy was. Okay.
When Dallas heard that the president had been killed here, all thoughts were, who could have done this and why? And who's behind it? We were in the middle of it. We were handling it.
The officers are now surrounding and searching the building. Book Depository Store on the corner of Elm and C, 1240.
When most people are running away, that's when police officers are running in.
company down here. We found empty rifle hulls, and it looked like the man had been there for some time.
Dallas police had found a rifle, and we were in the middle of the biggest manhunt the country had ever seen.
Well, it was very chaotic. People were very confused, they were very scared. I was terrified, knowing that somebody had shot the president. I was standing on the top step of the entrance into the Texas School Book Depository. I was standing there talking to two people, and they were trying to figure out what happened themselves. And I looked to my left, and there comes Lee Oswald walking down beside the building. Very normal, no hurry, and he went across Houston Street. Somebody said something to me, and I looked to see who was speaking to me. And I turned back and I lost him in the crowd. That's the last time I saw Lee.
We were all listening to the events that transpired over the police radios. There was a little box, we called it a squawk box, so we could hear everything that was going on.
We're still out here on time. You want us to go in the downtown area? Yes, 21.
That's when I heard, not a policeman, but a citizen, come on the radio on Channel 1.
Hello, we've had a shooting out here. It's a police officer. Somebody shot him. What's it? 4 10th Street. 78. It's in a police car. Number 10.
And I said, that's car 10, that's Tippit.
He's dead.
Officer J.D. Tippit, 38 years of age, was killed today.
We heard J.D. Tippit had approached a man, the man that matched the description of the guy they thought had killed the president. But when Tippit approached him, he was shot point blank.
J.D. Tippit died in the line of duty.
J.D. Tippit's a good guy. And for someone to be killed in such a manner is heartbreaking. I'm sure a lot of people, a lot of officers felt the same way. Hard to find a better officer. He was salt of the earth, just a great guy.
Entire area is being combed more thoroughly than ever involved in any manhunt or search in the history of Dallas, the state, and perhaps the nation.
So many things were happening, one after the other. Dallas was really on edge. No one could believe a policeman had been shot less than an hour after the president had been shot.
The entire area has been blocked off, no one allowed in or out, as the search for this would-be presidential assassin continues in downtown Dallas.
It's hard to explain that day. 30 minutes after they had pronounced President Kennedy had been fatally wounded, all of a sudden I hear a report that a policeman, Officer Tippett, had been shot. I didn't connect those two, but it's like, what's going on here?
Suspect running west on Jarvis from the location.
Do you have any indication that it has any connection with this other shooting? Well, the descriptions on the suspect are similar.
All of a sudden, this young man walks into my shoe store. He looked scared. He'd obviously been running. Well, I stepped outside and watched him walk toward the Texas Theater. I said, something is wrong with this. I walked up to the cashier and said, I'll call the police.
Where do we have him in the Texas Theater now?
There were police all over the alley. A couple of them grabbed me, wanted to know what I was doing. I said, well, there's a suspicious character. He's still here. They said, point him out. I said, that's him right there. Cops got their licks in. And at this time, I'm no more than 10 feet away or so watching this. He looked me in the eye and said, I'm not resisting arrest. And I don't know if he was trying to tell everybody else, but he was talking to me.
The Dallas Police Department arrested a 24-year-old man, Lee H. Oswald, in connection with the slaying of a Dallas policeman, J.D. Tippett, shortly after President Kennedy was assassinated.
We were in the process of having the body prepared so we could take it back to Washington. The nurses wrapped him in white sheets, put him in the casket. We took him out, they put him in the back of the hearse. And I turned to Mrs. Kennedy. I said, oh, Mrs. Kennedy, we can ride in this car right back here. And she said, no, 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 Mr. Hill, I'm going to ride in there with Jack. And so she calls into the back of the hearse. So I crawl in there with her. So there we were in the back of that hearse. Mrs. Kennedy and me. It was a little bit crowded. We went and drove to Love Field, where Air Force One was situated. And then we had to offload the gasket.
I went to the front, sat in the second row against the window, and I broke down completely. Roy Kellerman, at one point, he came and he shook me by the shoulders, and he said, you know, come on, Paul, you got to witness this. And I said, I don't need to witness anything. I've seen all I need to see. But he says, there's this historic moment. They're swearing in Vice President Johnson.
I remember coming into the room. There were 28 people in the room that I counted. And LBJ, as he usually did, would assemble the people. He had his secretary go back and talk to Mrs. Kennedy and see if she would like to stand with us for the swearing in. And she sent word back, yes, I do, but I need some time to compose myself. And we waited about 4 or 5 or 10 minutes, and she came forward. And I could see the damage that had been done. Then I could see the dress. She had blood on her where she cradled the president's head in her lap. Blood was congealing on her stocking and on her shoes. I don't say she was in shock. She knew what was going on. But her eyes were wide, unsmiling, serious. Mrs. Johnson said, would you like to change your clothes to something else? And she said, no, let them see what they have done.
I do solemnly swear that I will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States. And will to the best of my ability. Preserve. Protect. Defend. The Constitution of the United States. And self
Who do you think would do something like this?
I don't know. I can imagine in a way.
Well, I don't think anybody in their right mind. I think this is a terrible thing for our country, not only for our country, but for the entire world.
First reaction, sir, is that I hope these Southerners, these radicals, have
satisfied to get their pound of flesh and killing a man as good as that.
Are you certain that it is right-wing radicals or people who oppose the president so desperately that they would do something like this?
Could be no one else. Someone who do this must be mentally deranged.
I disagree with this man about it being a right-wing radical. It could have been communist, I think, probably something like that.
Here's the suspect. Could we roll it, please? The suspect is coming.
"24-year-old Lee Oswald, a spouser of ultra-leftist causes, an active member of the Fair Play for Cuba Committee, an avowed admirer of Cuba's Fidel Castro and Russia. He once lived in Russia. He was arrested less than 2 hours after the president was shot, less than 1 hour after a Dallas policeman was shot and killed in the downtown area.
These people have given me a hearing without legal representation or anything.
Did you shoot the president?
I didn't shoot anybody, no, sir.
You just heard Oswald, who said he did not shoot anybody.
That guy's got the biggest elbows of anybody I've ever seen. Wait, hit him in the head with his camera.
Let me get out of here for a while. I gotta breathe.
It was mayhem at the police station. And it was the first time we did news live on a location.
The rumor, if you did not happen to see the gentleman, the rumor has been rampant around the police department that there is a very good case that this is the man who they believe was involved in the assassination.
This was the biggest news story that any one of us ever covered. It was a relief when they brought him in to realize that he had been found and, okay, maybe they got this guy, maybe he's not going to get away. He was nondescript, I guess we'd call it, just a little guy. Maybe we see too many movies of what these killers look like, but this guy just didn't have any appearance of anger or desperation or afraid. He was just there. None of us at that time could figure out the motive. Nobody, I don't think the police could figure out a motive. And I have no idea what they knew, except maybe his background living in Russia. You have to remember that in this time, the Soviet Union was seen as a huge threat to America. I mean, the fact that Oswald lived in Russia, worked in Russia and the Soviet Union, and was even married to a Russian woman was seen as a huge red flag.
As Americans, we find communism profoundly repugnant as a negation of personal freedom and dignity.
Now we know that Mr. Oswald was Russian trained, that it wasn't a fascist or a Nazi that murdered Kennedy, it was a communist.
I think all the people should have been just grabbed them and just mutilated them and just broke them into pieces. This is a terrible thing, boy, what he did to the country, to the people.
Here is District Attorney Wade. Mr. Wade, walk along here with you, sir. What have you learned so far about the suspect, sir?
There's really nothing new on it. He was in the building, though, today.
He was in the building today. Thank you, Mr. Wade. Thank you, Mr. Wade. That was District Attorney Henry Wade, who you just heard the statement. And as he said, the murder charges have been filed against him for the death of Officer Tippett, who was shot while he stopped the suspect driving his car on East Jefferson. And as you did hear, it was reported that the man was in the building at the time of the shooting of the President of the United States.
We had a good relationship with the Dallas police, and they cooperated with us when we asked them to. So they told us that he worked in the Texas Book Depository. When the police came in to do the roll call, they found that Lee Harvey Oswald was unaccounted for. That was the only clue that they had that he might be the guy.
I've asked myself many times, how did you get involved? How did you get wrapped up in this? My involvement was very innocent. I was just trying to do a good neighborly deed. That day, I drove Lee Harvey Oswald over to where we were employed at Texas School Book Depository. I paid a big price for that, yes. Because of what had happened, 2 plainclothes detectives grabs me. I said, "Who are you? What are you doing?" And they said, "We're arresting you." I said, "Arresting me?" I said, "I haven't done anything."
Guy?
I was on one end of the building and Lee was on the other. And they were doing to Lee the same thing they were doing to me. Well, how long have you known him? What days he ride home with you? I told him that we worked together. We were both employees there at Texas School Book Depository. But yes, I drove Lee to work. And back on that day, I saw a package about roughly around 2 feet. It just looked like a normal package, nothing special. And I didn't look at it, I just glanced at it. I remember the police said that I was involved and I knew all about the assassination of John Kennedy, and that was totally false. It really was a shock that they'd want me to confess to something I didn't know anything about. And that's a frightening thing, when you realize someone is trying to convict you of a crime that you had nothing to do with. But I realized that I was really fighting for my life.
As you see, they are bringing the weapon that was allegedly used in the assassination of President John F. Kennedy this afternoon at 12:30 here in Dallas.
no name on it. 6.5, apparently made in Italy in 1940.
It hurts to go back to that time, to remember the days and to remember the feelings, the disappointment and the pain. I felt angry that I had unwillingly been helpful in some way. Well, at that time, I had arranged for Marina Oswald to come and stay at my house. She and Lee were separated, and so it was myself and my two kids and Marina and her daughter and her just born baby.
And in through a rear door.
I was sat with Marina watching the TV when we heard that an officer had been shot.
First, but Officer J.D. Tippett was shot dead.
And then something like 6 policemen arrived, and one turns around to me and said, "Are you a communist?" I said, "No." But as one policeman was coming in, he said, "Did Oswald have a gun, a rifle?" And I said, "No," and translated to Marina, who said that he did. And she led them into the garage, pointed to a blanket roll. She thought it was there, and the policeman picked it up, the blanket roll folded over his arm. It was clearly empty. And it was at that moment, I thought it could have been Lee. I didn't know he had a gun. Didn't see him as dangerous. You know, he had him in my house with my little kids. So I didn't see that coming at all.
This is the wife and the brother of the family coming out now. If you'll shoot right down the hall here. The wife and the family coming down. The wife of Oswald is carrying a child as they move down the hall.
When Oswald's wife, Marina, came to the police station, she was holding Rachel, their newborn baby.
She looked like she had to face something she probably didn't like. Did she know anything? Did she know he had a gun? Yeah, she knew that. But she didn't, evidently, I don't think she knew that he was going to kill the president or kill somebody. She just was a wife trying to keep her little family together, living apart from her husband.
At that time, I was not too happy with Lee's attitude towards Marina. He didn't really want her to learn English, which that's crazy, you know, because she had to cope with being in the United States. He was disappointed in his marriage, I think. They had argued, but he cared a lot also. I saw him quite caring for his children and caring for Marina. And he was angry with his mother, angry with his life. His mother had put her 3 kids in an orphanage. And I think he felt nobody appreciated his worth. He wanted to make a name for himself. He wanted to be somebody. And he saw that this was possible.
Here comes a man again. Suspect is again coming down the hall, being flanked by policemen. Let me get over here, out of the way.
Monsieur the President?
I work in that building.
Were you in the building at the time?
Naturally, if I work in that building, yes, sir.
Back up, man.
Come on,
Monsieur
man.
the President?
No, they're taking me in because of the fact that I lived in the Soviet Union.
time is it?
I'm just a patsy.
President?
Woods are lovely, dark and deep. I have promises to keep and miles to go before I sleep. Before I sleep.
You will conduct a trial.
Yes, sir, plan to.
You will ask capital verdict.
We'll ask the death penalty.
I think everything was unusual about this whole weekend. You know, it was just an unprecedented set of events that you just kept following as they kept unfolding.
Jack Ruby was up there that night. He just hated Oswald, loved the Kennedys, and wanted to get even.
Chief, do you have any concern for the safety of your prisoner?
No, I don't think that the people will try to take the prisoner away from us.
He's been shot. There's the man with a gun. It's absolute panic.